Shalom. All praises to the Most High, Noka said. Praise be to the earthly mother, the Holy Spirit, the Kahe. In the name of his only begotten Son, Motsah the Lamb, unification to the nation. Boy, do I got a treat for you guys. I can't even speak straight. We are going to read this. The discoveries that this dude made might just tip the scale for a lot of things. Now, I still have to study a lot of these things out. But to me, this is pretty much I don't know if it is the nail in the coffin, but it truly does let me know that the true old world is definitely in South America or Antarctica or Australia. That sort of, area going into India. But this is what a discovery, man. What a discovery. So we're going to read this. It's kind of a lot. I'm gonna try to skim through it, but there's just so much drop, and I wanted to speak about this, before, but I didn't know that I didn't know the extent of this guy's discoveries. So hopefully this isn't too long. It can't be. My phone doesn't have that much battery life. So we're going to read this, okay? So, welcome to this ebook about the discoveries of Alfredo Gamarra. Alfredo was a Peruvian investigator dedicated to research the mysteries of human history, based especially on the data he could find in his hometown, Cuzco, the old Incan capital in Peru. He investigated all the famous vestiges there, and his approach was multidisciplinary, including information he received in dreams. Interesting, right? Alfredo left this world in the year 1999 when he was 96 years old. His work is still continued by his son, Jesus Gamarra. The purpose of this ebook is to give an overview of this important work, of the investigations, and of the discoveries. Many of Alfredo's conclusions have very special details and ideas that deserve serious consideration, as they give insights and solutions where others did not give them. And of course, this link will be in the description, but just look at some of his findings. America, North and South, is not the New World, but a much older world than what is normally assumed. 2. The origin of many cultures over the world can be traced down to especially Peru. Didn't I show you in part 2 about that concept? The vestiges of the Incas are much older than Incan time. The Incas built over already existing vestiges. So this is what I was talking about. It's one of two things, but either way they're lying. One is that the Incas did not come here 500 years before Columbus came. These people were here a long time ago. It's either that, or 2, there was a group of Incas that was here before. Then they were discontinued, and then a new group came over, which really just sounds like the Northern Kingdom leaving and coming back. So it's one or two things. But these people are lying. This is what I was saying. As soon as I saw it, and it seems like they're trying to ram and fit everything in a 500-year period. It didn't make any sense. So this is very, very interesting. 4. Excuse me. In ancient times, a special technology must have been used, as can be seen in the vestiges of the Incas. The technology used was with heat, as the existence of vitrified stone shows. With the stones that were molded, they were worked upon in a soft state. Hey, isn't that what Mud Fossil University just said? That they had to, like, these stones or whatever the hell this material was, it had to have been wet. And then once it dried, it expanded. There's no way in hell that they were dried stones that they just put cement in. No, these were living, breathing things that turned into stone. Almost like big slabs of meat or organic uh, stone. Who, like, this stuff is crazy, right? But here goes my theory. Now, I find it funny that Big Judah was just talking about the Chichipoya. And I spoke about that in my finale of the Romans in Brazil. Now, I do believe that they are telling the truth that these people were white people. But they did not build like that stuff. Now, some of their ancestors could have, because their ancestors were probably the Canaanites. And the Canaanites did build a lot of the things around the Americas because they were big giants. They could do it. A lot of this stuff in the Americas, there's no way in hell it could have been built by humans. And I'm not going to, simply take the credit for everything that was here. That's not necessarily true either. Because the Mayas, they built over what the Jaredites did. But the Mayans were the ones who were the Israelites. The Aztecs did it to the Mayans, or the Cacacital. So, it doesn't necessarily prove who is and who isn't one of the people of the Most High. But either way, I digress. Peru, and especially the area of Cuzco and the Sacred Valley, has been important from the beginning time of humanity. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? The center of the world. Alfredo Gamarra's investigation led to the conclusion that here the sacred places of origin mentioned in the sacred scripts of several religions can be located. I'm about to buy all this person's work, man. You think I'm playing around? Now listen to this. This is what I saw somewhere else, and I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. The Quechua and Aymara are the oldest languages of the world, remnants of the first spoken language of humanity. Many other languages can be related to them, with Quechua and Aymara being more original. So this must mean that if the Tower of Babel was not literally in Cusco, it was near Cusco, right? Or it was, possibly of that continent. Or it was a part of Antarctica, and those are the remnants. And maybe there was a much older stuff there. But I won't be able to know that until we find out more about Antarctica. But it seems like the oldest place in the world right now is South America. Something to think about. In ancient times, other physical conditions existed in this world, which made it possible to do extraordinary things in the rocks. It was possible for life forms to be bigger, including human beings. It was possible to live longer. Accounts from several sources show that humanity lived longer in the past, and the physical and mental capabilities were superior to present-day humans. Alfredo related this to less gravity and less atmospheric pressure in the past. Now, Alfredo is, he's trying to do his best to be scientifical, to match the small brains of current academia. But, he's pretty much saying what the scriptures have said, that people were bigger and smarter before, and now we're smaller and dumb. As it says, it refers to this last captivity, as being like iron in comparison to gold. I don't even see what notification I just got. Alfredo came to the conclusion that different calendars existed in the past, meaning that Earth went through different orbits. Humanity already would have existed in two earlier orbits, orbits in which gravity was less. Earth originally would have come from the sun. In time, Earth goes further away from the sun and increases in mass, just like other planets. So he's saying that this planet got bigger somehow. Is he saying that? It seems like he just said that. I don't even know, but that's not really what I'm focusing on. But let's go to number one. So America is the old world, pretty much. Alfredo and Jesus studied many ancient documents and all the evidence that is practically located in their backyard, namely the city of Cuzco and all the vestiges that one can find there, inside the city, near to the city, like the famous vestige of Sacsayhuman, the sacred valley of the Incas, including Machu Picchu, and many more places that are not very well known to the public. Sacsayhuman literally is modeled after Jerusalem, if it's not Jerusalem itself. It's perfectly described the same way how Josephus described Jerusalem. Listen, you guys should have checked out that video that Kurt Mayo did on the city of David, because your mind will be blown at how many similarities there are with many of the Incan structures. And he also, not in that video, I think he did it in a South America video or the King Charles V video, but he said that Inca just means king. To me, that literally sounds like, the Judaic kings, but whatever. Let's continue. Their knowledge of local myths, legends, and the connection with the remnants of ancient cultures like that of the Incas helped to study all this information and made them conclude that Cusco and surroundings are much older than commonly thought and what you normally would learn at school at the history classes, namely that Cusco and the vestiges nearby were constructed by the Incas, and that the American continent is a rather new world, only very recently discovered by Colon, which is Christopher Columbus. But no, this continent is much older than the old world was supposed, although the leading historical paradigm says the contrary. Not only Cusco, but the rest of North and South America would be much older than commonly thought. So he's saying that North and South America are incredibly old, but he's also saying that Cusco is the oldest around, like, of it all. What is he saying? He's saying, right now, I'm going to show you part two, or the next one. The conclusion of the American continent being much older was also based on finding very old vestiges inside and near of what are supposed to be Incan vestiges or Inca vestiges, and on finding many other indications in the local stories, toponyms, I don't know what that is, symbols, archives, and chronicles of the colonial period. Further study of old books as from the Greek and Roman historians, information like the Vatican and the Bible, and the knowledge of local and very old languages, Quechua and Aymara, and comparing them with other languages over the world, made them conclude that many cultures would have had their origin in this part of the world. Oh my goodness. Do you want me to read that again? Further study of old books, as from the Greek and Roman historians, information from the Vatican and the Bible, and knowledge of local and very old languages, and comparing them with other languages over the world, made them conclude that many cultures could have had their origin in this part of the world. Wow. Wow. And he said he got this stuff in dreams. Holy Spirit is leading people to the truth, whether this dude's an Israelite or not. That's crazy stuff. And maybe he is, because I see that the Mossad doesn't allow many people to know where his true lands are. It's almost like he has to reveal that to people. The global memory that seems to exist about ancient cultures like Atlantis and Mu could very well be related to this part of the world also. Consideration of it being the new world has been a reason not much further wait, has been a reason to not much further explore this possibility by others, and certainly not by Orthodox history. So they just label it the New World so people don't look at it from an old perspective. See, they flipped everything around. That's why I keep saying it's not that simple by saying, the southern kingdom came over here and the northern kingdom came here from Jerusalem. But if Jerusalem's here, then where did the northern kingdom go? So then we have to get into history. We have to find out, well, where did the northern kingdom go? Some went to Africa, some went to Asia, some came back, some didn't. That's pretty much what happened. The Incans built over earlier, already existing vestiges. The Gamarras concluded that the Incas were only the architects of the more simple constructed walls inside the famous vestiges like Sacsayhuaman and Machu Picchu. Walls made of similar stone with the marks of the use of hammer and chisel on them, or walls made with the local available mud bricks called adobe. This is not to belittle the Incas, because the Gamarras have great respect for their culture. The reasons to conclude that the other, more sophisticated parts of the vestiges are from long before the Incas is that there has been used a technology of which the Incas had not their tools to produce similar results, which is true. There is no way in hell. That's why I keep saying there is no way in hell that humans could have created many of the stuff in Peru or really all over the Americas. That had to have been made by fallen angels, giants, or demons, which could have been under the guise of some, like maybe Israelites or people, but had to be the Israelites because no one else was bossing the giants, demons, and fallen angels around. But that's kind of my point. Some of that stuff was not made by us, some of it was. But those really advanced stuff, like that stuff that you can't slide paper through, there's no way in hell that the Israelites built that stuff. There's no way. Not unless we had some giants on a dog leash. Like, there's no way in hell we built that stuff. From the Hanan Pacha time, the period that, according to Alfredo Gamarra, coincides with the biblical time of paradise on earth. Oh my goodness. So we might get into Hanan Pacha once more. In Inca mythology, this time would have been the time of land of the heaven above. The construction style of this period is at the base of the vestiges, made in the living rock, and it has a look as if it was just carved out of butter or cheese. See, this rock is not, bro, this stuff was not originally rock. They used something else. And it could not have been by humans. I'm sorry, this stuff is way too heavy. Right? It just is. There's no way we could have picked any of that stuff up. Which maybe I shouldn't say that, because there is literally a giant skull next to Machu Picchu. So yeah, maybe, I don't know. But still, it's very strange. Vitrification is found on these stones. I still don't even know what that is, but I'm not gonna waste my time Googling that. And they are many times to be found in the center or below the walls of the later period. From the Uran Pacha time, this time would have been the time that megalithic stones were used, stones that show vitrification on their borders, a sign that a technology was used that permitted, I'm sorry, I was tripping, maximum perfection in the assembly of the pieces. The walls constructed during this time are those that have perfect fitting stones. This time coincides with the biblical time that start when man was thrown out of paradise and ended with the confusion of languages. These walls are many times found over and around the rocks of the first style. Did you know that the languages in South America, they say that those languages are as different as French from German, or French from Ukrainian, or English to Spanish? Like, it's that different. It's even more different than that. So people think, oh, all these people are the same. Maybe they could be of the same, stock, same people or similar people, cousins maybe, Shemites, but their languages are so very different. Too different, but they're living in close proximity to each other. I find that to be a bit odd. Let me see. Let's keep reading. Vitrification is a phenomenon still largely neglected by orthodoxy. Archaeologists normally describe this as nicely polished stones. They have never investigated this further, as it is simply assumed that it must have been polished. Alfredo Gamarra identified vitrified stones long ago as being systematically present on the stones from the first and second period that were described below. The latest information, thanks to analysis of a sample, indicate that Alfredo was on the right track. Results show that the composition of the top layer of this sample is much different from the rest of the stone, which is typically limestone. The top layer contains significantly more silicone, and the composition is very similar to that of a ceramic paint. The conclusion that this stone must have been treated with a technology where heat was applied is therefore justified. The visible characteristics on many other stones from the Hanan and Uran Pacha periods indicate this same vitrification in most vestiges near and inside Cuzco, and on many different types of stone, indeed systematically present. So again, he's saying that this stuff, their technology blows away almost everything that anyone else has. This stuff is very old and is very advanced. These same building styles from before the Incas can be found on world level. Now, this is interesting because they found, Incan buildings, I think on Easter Island, but he's about to show us many other places. Alfredo Gamarra identified the same Hana and Pacha style as in Peru being present in ancient monuments all over the world, over the whole world. He indicated several places like Malta, Egypt, Stonehenge, and Japan, all places that the Israelites were. Wow. Didn't we just go over the fact that the Israelites started the Egypt over there after we just broke out of captivity over here and we didn't get into the part where they ransacked Egypt and pretty much took their land, but that did happen. Stonehenge, we were there as the Druids, or so on and so forth. Japan, we definitely were there as the samurais. So hey, we were all over the world. You wouldn't think of those places as Incan sort of buildings, but it seems like Incan or anything involved with the Incans, it has to do with the Israelites, and it all has a, how do you say, an origin. In many cases, this building style is also built over later cultures. A nice example is the rock on which the Great Pyramid is built. In this rock, there is the underground chamber, supposedly an unfinished structure. Better investigation learns that there are the typical Hanan Pacha characteristics: rounded internal corners and a molded look, cut like cheese. In Japan, the underground structures of Yonaguni are still in debate. They are naturally or artificially made. But for Alfredo, this was quite clear, as they have the typical look of the Hanan Pacha style, and it would be a confirmation of the antiquity of the Hanan Pacha building style. Thanks to the internet, it is possible to explore images from around the world. So now it is clear that similar structures indeed exist in all corners of the globe, which the Israelites were in, where they form many times the base of old and sacred vestiges. In this sense, it was a sensational discovery that the structure inside the mosque that is on the top of, excuse me, let me read that again. In this sense, it was a sensational discovery that the rock structure inside the mosque that is on top of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, called the foundation stone, is a typical Hanan Pacha stone. It confirms the importance of this building style. Also, the fact that this place is still disputed between the three religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, indicates the very ancient importance of this place. So, if all of these places around the world have pieces of these stones that are here in Peru, and all this stuff is located here, then he's pretty much concluding that this was the original place. Peru is where everything originated because Peru is the center of the world. And if Peru is the center of the world, then Peru is Jerusalem. Sacsayhuaman, city of David. Cuzco was where the sacred places of origin were located. For Alfredo and Jesus Gamarra, the big presence of the Hanapacha style in Cuzco and surroundings means something special, namely that this part of the world was the main center and it could have been discovered as the place of human origin. Hanan Pacha constructions are present in abundance and not only in the Inca vestiges. Also around Cusco, these kind of stones can be found. The literature study and study of toponyms, the information available from old languages, and indications that Alfredo Gamarra received by lucid dreams seem to confirm this surprising conclusion. And in other places over the world, these kind of stones seem to be related to the origin, but they are present in less abundance than in Cusco and surroundings. See what I just said? I didn't read all this yet. I don't know where I should stop. I guess I'll just read. Let me see. I think I'll just read 7 and then I'll read the end. Quechua and Aymara are the oldest languages in the world and remnants of the first spoken language. Alfredo Gamarra studied a long list of books that indicate the important role of the Quechua and Aymara languages. The special structure of Aymara has been proposed to be used for computerized automation translation techniques. As Aymara is not based on two-valued logic, either true or false, but on a three-valued logic, it is, therefore, capable of expressing modal subtleties where other languages can only capture through complex circumlocutions. This is some advanced stuff, bro. This is high-level learning. Aymara could be used to resolve all problems of computer translation, and it has been demonstrated that Aymara would facilitate the translation of languages. This is confirmed by Bolivian Ivan Guzman de Rojas, who invented the computer program Atamari or Atamiri. I remember reading something that I think the Indians were able to understand. No, I think it was the Polynesians who were able to understand the European explorers. Why is that? And the person did say that they must have had their origin in South America. So I'm just seeing a lot of things that connect. It seems when you have this mother tongue of a language, you can understand every other language or pieces of it. This is why I say our original Hebrew might have just been one of these languages, Quechua or Aymaran. I don't know though. Aymara is such a perfect language that it has been proposed to be an artificial language. Alfredo said it is, together with Quechua, a language that is directly derived from the first language on earth. Something that also seems to be confirmed by the similarities of Quechua and Amara with other languages over the world, similarities that are so regular that several authors express that they might be due to historical contacts. Following the logic of one common language of origin, excuse me, Alfredo said that this language was from Cuzco and that Quechua and Amara are remnants of this first language, the language that humanity had to learn after the confusion of languages. Bro, wow. So he's pretty much saying that, you know, Tower of Babel had to have been there. Land of Shinar had to have been there. Boy, oh boy. Before that time, according to Alfredo, humanity was capable to communicate telepathically, which is honestly, it might be true. According to how Aki wrote down those records. Alfredo's own knowledge of Quechua was an important factor to come to these conclusions. So I'm not going to get into 8 and 9, but let me see. Yeah, I'm going to leave this link in the description. Let me see. Yeah, I guess this is all of his work right here. Hey, I just saw this. I'm gonna be checking out his work for sure. For sure. Wait, let me see this. Babylon in Iraq is a relatively modern city, while Cusco, originally between two rivers, as ancient maps of the city confirm, could be much older following the logic of Alfredo Gamarra. The two former construction styles from earlier periods are present in Cusco and would have been from thousands of years earlier than Incan time. Descriptions of Babylon and the Tower of Babel, I don't know how to say that, by ancient Greek and Roman histories coincide with the characteristics of the city and Sacsayhuaman, respectively. The Tower of Babel has never been found in Mesopotamia, where it was supposed to be. Many other indications exist that sceneries of the Bible happen on the American continent. For example, reflected in the work of the explorer Jean Sayov, who argued that Ophir must have been in Peru. Well, he's just being an ass, but he's only saying that because of the amount of gold that we had here. But they knew where Ophir was. They already knew that. When they ransacked the Philippines, I'm sure they told them. I'm gonna check out this person's work, man. This is kind of incredible. Voice is kind of hurting now though. Shalom, Selah Kala.